Hey guys, King of Travis here to be a judge, your jury, and your analyst. And today I bring to you the top 5 teams, or at least my top 5 for Master Premier Classic. So, unfortunately, there is no special cup next week. It is literally going to drown you in Master League. The good thing is that you have Open, and then you have, well, hold on, let me double check because I think I'm wrong. Because I know it's Master Premier Classic next week, but the good thing is this season is almost over. Despite the fact Niantic has had 3 months to fix everything, it's still broken. So, I have no idea what they're doing. No, seriously, they have no idea what they're doing. Okay, so it's Master League and Master Premier Classic. Despite it being 3-time Stardust from Win Rewards, I am not interested at all in playing either cup. I will still do content and release it. However, as far as like me having any interest in it, not really. It's really bad. Plus, I do have a lot of other responsibilities to deal with. So, again, these are my top 5 teams for Master Premier Classic. Now, before we get started, my therapist mental health tip of the day is going to be have a routine. So, routines are very important for the structure of life. It's like your sleep schedule. When you decide to sleep, having your sleep schedule intact actually is very healthy for you. It's with all other aspects in your life. For example, eating and sleeping habits, taking care of yourself, self-care. It's a lot of people use the term self-care in the mental health career field, but in all honesty, it's like both physical and mental, but at the same time, also your daily life. So having a routine is really good. For example, I wake up, I get ready for the day. As soon as I usually wake up around the same time. I like blast out of my bed. Sometimes it's a struggle, like with all of us. I too am human, and with humans, we don't like getting out of our bed right away. So like, I'll stay in for like 10 minutes and then like jump out, make my bed, and that's like usually the first way I get my day going. I've used this tip before, but along with routines, it's also the fact that my workload is getting a little more intense, and because of that, I'm not uploading as much as I usually do. Just because I'm trying to get a lot of stuff done. Along with that, it is my last trimester in grad school, so trying to get all of that done. So with grad school and with content creation, with grad school and everything, it's really hard to get everything done. So with routine, I tend to prioritize grad school and my career first before Pokemon Go or content creation. So I do appreciate y'all that stick around. I do apologize for the lack of content for the past couple of days, but it's going to be that way at least until the end of the month or until next season, just because of the fact that I'm a school therapist, and because of that, I got to close some clients and I got to make sure I have all of their stuff done. So that makes it a little difficult on my part. So with that being said, yes, I do appreciate your patience, but again, that's my routine. Routine also means priorities, which is grad school, papers, and then all the other stuff I have to get done. And then along with that, I have my little leisure time that I do trying to get, because, you know, the mental health career field can be pretty exhausting, so I keep myself healthy. And at the same time, I still work out and all that other stuff. So content creation is like the last thing on my bucket list right now. At least for the next 2 weeks, like I mentioned. Maybe I'll pick up, I should pick up then, but it's still going to be like a 5 videos a week kind of thing or something of that sort. Anyways, I appreciate your patience. This is my top 5 teams for the Master Premier Classic, and let's get started. Alright, so the first team I have for you is actually the strongest team for the last season, Dragonite, Excadrill, and Metagross. This is a little concerning because Florges kind of made its inception into the meta, but at the same time, Excadrill and Metagross don't do bad against Florges. Yeah. It's still a great team, encompassing everything but the bulk. You can blame Dragonite for that, or actually Excadrill, just because Excadrill isn't the bulkiest thing in the world. But despite that, this ABB team of Dragon Double Steel still does really well. If you look at the overall meta, still doesn't really have an answer for it. Despite the fact that Florges has entered the meta and a few other things, it's still this team is still very, very powerful, with not one mon in the overall meta still being able to take it down. But because of that, there's really not too much analysis when it comes to this. This team is still super powerful. You're holding 3 super meta Pokemon, and your only problem is actually Excadrill. Now, when you play out of this team, if you do happen to see Excadrill, you kind of have to force your way through it with Dragonite. You want to throw Excadrill or Metagross into your opponent, just because what happens is that you lose, and you'll be like 1 turn off of energy, and not only that, you're going to give up Switch for no reason. So the best way to do it is to actually, if you do end up against Excadrill, the reason why this team's so strong and the reason why it rated so dang high is because Dragonite can bully its way through in the 2-shield. Straight Dragon Claw your way to victory, bully your way through. You can even use Dragon Tail, or Dragon Breath, Dragon Tail, either one. Dragon Tail or Dragon Breath. This one uses Dragon Breath. So Dragon Breath or Dragon Tail, either one, force your way through in the 2-shield and then win switch, and then hopefully you can close out. Your opponent must use both of their shields as well, so you're still going to keep switch. That's what makes Dragonite such a beast, just because in the 2-shield scenario, a lot of times, especially against Steel-type Pokemon, Dragonite can just force its way through. Therefore, annihilating the weakness and then allowing you to choose between Excadrill and Metagross. Of course, if there's a fighter in the back, you're going to throw Metagross into it because fighters get neutral damage against it, and Metagross and Excadrill are just beasts. Plus, Excadrill is one of the strongest closers, so that's how you do it. And that's why, despite having a threat score of 580, this team's really strong because you have a way out. The only problem I would say is probably going to be wall raid. If you do see a wall raid, you must switch out. You don't really have a choice because in every scenario you will die. So just putting that out there. But I can see a Master Premier Classic wall raid coming out there, especially since it does very well against the overall meta. But generally, if you do see one, just switch out and then hopefully you can come out with a W. Next up, we got Togekiss, Snorlax, and Excadrill. This is a very popular team last season. Togekiss is still a beast, just because Charm 2-shield strats slap. Your safe switch will be Snorlax, and Excadrill is there to pretty much catch Metagross. Togekiss will lose the lead, you safe switch into Snorlax, try to win back switch, and then line up your opponent's Steel type against Excadrill. Amazing coverage, not a lot of bulk or safety. This team isn't super safe, despite the fact that you have Snorlax. Snorlax is a beast safe switch though, so then that's why Snorlax does really well for this team. Overall doing very well. Not one mon will actually beat this entire mean in the overall meta like a lot of Master Premier Classic. Everything just does so much damage and is so overstingingly overpowered is that one team usually doesn't beat the other unless it's like RPS or there's not really ways, or there's like, you have ways out against everything. And what makes this team really unique is that despite Rhyperior and Snorlax are your only problems. So Snorlax does beat Togekiss, body slamming it to death automatically, and then Rhyperior... The thing is, Rhyperior doesn't exactly do great against... Yeah. So the thing about Snorlax versus Togekiss is Togekiss has to burn both of its shields, otherwise you die. Or you burn one shield. So you look over here, Togekiss must burn both of its shields, and then Snorlax has to burn one. So you kind of have choice in this scenario to go down, but Togekiss doesn't have an overly... It's not like convincingly lost, because then you have to decide whether or not you want to burn both of your shields, and then have Snorlax in one. So otherwise, Snorlax wins the one shield pretty convincingly, just because of the fact body slam and well, Snorlax is thick. Okay, it's got a big butt. It's got a big butt. When you got something that big with a huge booty, like let's see, what's something with a huge booty in anime? Pretty much every freaking fan service. Yeah, fan service is strong in the anime department. If you're a fan of anime, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The entire team, however, it does get bodied by Rhyperior in the one shield, but it's still not that bad. The thing about Rhyperior is that Rhyperior is incredibly slow. If it's running Mud Slap, it's not going to do any super effective damage against Togekiss, and in the 2-shield, Togekiss owns Rhyperior. There's also been a lot of Rhyperior isn't really great anymore. Yeah, it still slaps the crap out of Metagross, but you won't see too many of it just because Excadrill's rise makes it so that your Rhyperiors, including mine, are pretty much useless. Rhyperior isn't the choice of mine anymore. Excadrill is a beast, and yes, this is why Excadrill has, once it released into Master Premier Classic, absolutely ravages the meta. And it's really freaking good. So this team's still very powerful. You like Togekiss, this is a very strong team and likely still the best one for Master Premier Classic. Next up, we got Garchomp, Excadrill, and Metagross. Metagross is still a really strong safe switch. The only problem with Metagross is this: if they swap an Excadrill into you, you're very likely going to die. That's the issue. This pretty much does the Dragonite team, except you just put Garchomp in the lead. This team features Garchomp with Earth Power and Outrage, and statistically, double nukes are the way to go. Personally, I like Sand Tomb better just because you have bait potential and you can lower shields. However, double nukes can actually do very well for you as well, because with Earth Power, if your opponent does, for example, if you go against an Excadrill in the lead, you could 2-shield your way through just like with Dragonite. But if you do get an Excadrill and they don't shield, or if it's in the closer, Garchomp with Earth Power can give you win cons. Unfortunately, this team did drop off in effectiveness a little bit. As you see, not a lot of coverage or bulk, however, very safe and consistent. Unlike the other teams I featured to you, though, this team does get bodied by Gyarados. Gyarados with Dragon Breath or Dragon Tail is extremely annoying and can effectively pretty much two-shield its way to victory, especially with Aqua Tail and with Crunch. So if you see a Gyarados, you might want to wipe it out as fast as you possibly can. In the two-shield, Gyarados is very dangerous, as you see here. Absolutely, you can choose to like you could choose to run your way through with Gyarados and come out. As you see here, you can try to force your way through and just sack your lead, or just sack Garchomp. Farm down Gyarados a little bit, and hopefully you come out with a W, but that's not an advisable strat just because of the fact that Master Premier Classic is very rock, paper, scissors, and everything does so much damage. You lose the lead, safe switch into Metagross, try to do as much damage as you can, and then what you want to do is that you have Excadrill in the closer against Gyarados. Hopefully Excadrill has a great matchup against whatever your opponent has in the back, and then you can Rock Slide and just drop a bunch of rocks against your opponent's Gyarados, and then that would be GG's. Overall, very high threat score. Still did very well despite all of this madness that's going on. As you see here, Samurott, Rhyperior, and Excadrill. You could two-shield your way through an Excadrill, however, Gyarados and Garchomp can give you a hard time. Garchomp had a rise in Ultra Premier Classic because it had a community day. So, if anything, anime has taught us nothing lasts forever. What's one of the darkest animes out there? Oh yeah, like you know, Death Note. Yeah, like you know, Light Yagami went like super ham. He was like, yes, I'm going to rule the world. I'm going to be God, and then he ends up dying in the end. Or Attack on Titan, where literally every one of your favorite characters die. Well, most of them actually do. Trust me, if you have an emotional attachment with any of those characters, you're probably going to cry at one point in the series, or have cried if you, like me, if you watched and you are caught up to it. But this team is still very strong. I still advise the Dragonite one over this one, but it's really up to you. Just because Garchomp can get, especially with things like Walrein and Avalugg being out there, Walrein, if you do happen to get Garchomp versus Walrein, it's a very bad day for you. So yes, just putting that out there. But still a great team. If you do like Garchomp, probably used this team last season. It can still do really well, but y'all gotta watch out for little walruses that got buffed recently. And I'm talking about Walrein. Alright, next up we got Magnezone, Gyarados, and Dragonite. This is kind of an ABB team because you're using double Dragon Breath. Not really though, just because it doesn't really do the concept. It's just you have double Dragon Breath. Magnezone, Gyarados, Dragonite. This team did surprisingly well for me just because Magnezone is still a very great league. You can choose to break shields, you can choose to end your opponent's life, but if you do see a ground type, you must switch out. For example, if you do see something like Garchomp, you have to switch. But that's what you have double Dragon Breath for. Gyarados and Dragonite can bully their way through steel types and pretty much give most of the ground archetype a hard time because they're both flyers in the back. Actually, no, that's right. It's kind of ABB because, you know, you got double flyer, but it's mostly the primary type, so you know it's what it is. A for coverage, B for bulk and safety, B's across the board other than coverage. But as you see here, for everything else, it's really freaking good. Magnezone will break your opponent's shields and then force Gyarados to Dragonite to go to town, which is why you want in the lead, especially with the newly born Florges. I don't know a lot of people that have Florges built, or like I personally don't have the patience to get a Florges built because I didn't grind for one, but I wouldn't max one out unless I had a perfect anyways, and yeah. But as you see here, it's like, yeah. So basically I'm saying yeah a lot just because, you know, Florges and Togekiss are the two things you want to see the most with Magnezone, and that's why you have Gyarados and Dragonite in the back row, because you don't want it to line up against the Charmer. Or the Fairy type, to be honest with you. Despite this, it still has a very, very low threat score. If you do see an Excadrill, make sure you swap out. You could choose Gyarados or Dragonite. Either one works against Excadrill, and hopefully you can close out the match. Saving 2 shields for Magnezone also works really, really well, but still has a very low threat score. You don't see a lot of Super Metamons that do actually beat this entire team, just because it has a lot of great coverage and Dragon Breath is so madly broken. You can even use double Dragon Tail if you want to. It's really up to you, but the general way of this team is break shields with Magnezone, that or you switch out into Gyarados because it's the most powerful safe switch as of right now, at least statistically, and then break as many shields as you can, save your shields for Magnezone, Dragonite, and hopefully they can come out with a W. Alright, and last but not least we got Florges, Gyarados, Metagross. Gyarados safe switch, and then Metagross is also a very powerful safe switch. The thing about is it Florges or I keep on saying Florges, but it's like Florges, please correct me in the comments if I'm saying it wrong, because I'm very terribly well versed in a lot of new Pokemon names. It's like Komodo. I still don't know, but I can say Alomomola just because Alomomola, I've been saying it forever. Like, yeah. Anyways, yeah, this team is still very good. Florges is actually a top lead, and when you pair it with Gyarados, you get A's across the board. Not a lot of bulk here, just because basically it's Gyarados. Gyarados isn't a super bulky mon, super high attack, that's why it does so well. However, the reason why it's such a beast is because it does really well against Metagross, unless you get hit by a Psychic, then it sucks. Very strong team, with the only problem giving you a huge heart of... It's Gyarados, or Steel types in general. So Magnezone, as well as Excadrill, and of course your worst nightmare, which would be Metagross, absolutely Florges, which is very, it's very punny. Just putting that there. Yeah, you can unsubscribe for me after this video. Anyways, as you see, this team does really well against the overall meta. However, some choice picks, like basically Steel types, really give you a hard time. Florges gets walled by every Steel type because it has Vine Whip and Double Fairy. So does really well. That's why we have Gyarados and Metagross. You have one of the strongest Steel types, which have a chance against other Steel types. You also have Gyarados, which is really good against other Steel types. With the exception of Excadrill, because the thing about Excadrill is that Excadrill and Gyarados isn't exactly a terrible matchup. Excadrill with great energy management can actually just obliterate Gyarados with a Rock Slide. As you see here, one Rock Slide will do 105 points of damage, which is more than half of Gyarados' HP. So that's why Excadrill is featured in a lot of top teams, because with a little bit or with a lot of energy, Excadrill just absolutely body your opponent's... It has great coverage, alright? Rock Slide and Earthquake, as we know from Galar, or not Rock Slide and Earthquake, but a Rock and Earth and Ground moveset. Excadrill is the G-Fisk of Master Premier Classic. That's basically what it is. And that's why it's so freaking good. This team is still very, very powerful, and they say I just popped in this is the team with the lowest threat score I've seen. Just because outside, if you eliminate the Steel-type threat, basically Florges goes to town. So, unless you have a Gengar, which I've seen Gengars in Master Premier Classic. I don't know how popular they are now, just because of the fact that Gengar is so glassy. And outside of seeing a Fairy type like Togekiss, you don't exactly have a great time against the rest of the meta. But, like I mentioned, lowest threat score out of all. If you do have a perfect Florges and you decide to use it, this team is very powerful for Master Premier Classic. And that's GG's. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. As I mentioned before, I'm going to lower my video uploads at least for the end of this month. I honestly can't wait to close in the... School year has been really tough. As a school therapist, being the first clinician in a school setting when they haven't had one for a while is really, it's really opened up my mind to just how crazy coronavirus has affected the world. Not just in everyone's daily lives, but also in the phase of mental health, especially in those of children going back to school. It was an absolute nightmare, and going into grad school myself while being in grad school actually helped me out because I didn't have to go to San Francisco that much. But at the same time, it's you kind of scratch your head. So it's a very, yeah. I'm actually writing a book on that whole experience. That's why I've been more focused on that rather than content creation for Pokemon Go, especially with the interlude season. And I don't want to be I'm not a full-time content creator. I like doing this. It allows me to practice being articulate, and in a way helps me with analyzing. When you analyze PvP, it helps you think left and right when you're trying to diagnose someone with a mental illness. I don't like being wrong as far as misdiagnosing. It happens. I'm pretty sure it'll happen, and I'll do it in the future as a therapist, but it's basically what it is. It's like Master Premier Classic. The meta is very, very stale, and everything is super overpowered. That's like mental illness. Right now, it's running rampant, and it's very overpowered. And just like there's not a lot of people in Pokemon PvP to call it a tier 1 huge esport with millions of dollars or prize pools, it's like therapists right now. There's a very, very, very low, we're severely undermanned. And there's a lot more out there that need help than there are therapists that can actually take it. And in order to do it ethically, we can only take a certain caseload, unless you do private practice. But even then, there's only so much one human being can do as far as treating mental illness. So I'm definitely doing, because I have to close cases at the same time, there's a lot of things I'm trying to do to in that career field versus this. I love doing this, and I do have a community. I really do appreciate every single one of y'all, but like I mentioned, being a therapist right now in the world is more important than being a content creator. It's easy to be a content creator. Outside of the barrier entry to buying hardware, etc. You can go live and then poof. So yes, I mean, you can argue in that every single way, but there's a reason why 99.9% of the world aren't mental health professionals, because this, you could say you could do this, but once you're in it, you deal with a whole lot of stuff. And because of that, I need to take a step back, and I need to focus more on this than on my content creation. However, when the next season does come back, I'll finally have my caseload cut in half so I can dedicate more time and to this. So then expect expect a lot of uploads like I did before later on. So because of this, you're likely not to see a video tomorrow, but I'll be publishing a video ever, like 3 videos a week or something of that sort, at least for the next 2 weeks. So I really do appreciate y'all that do stay for me. I appreciate all your patience. I appreciate y'all to death. Without further ado, please like and subscribe. Dang. This is how you know you're out of practice. Please like and subscribe. It totally helps the channel until it's totally free. For comments, also comment for the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate y'all. I try to respond to every comment and Stuffle Squad. I appreciate y'all. And then, again, give me 2 weeks and then I'll go back to doing more than 3 uploads a week or something of that sort. Good luck on your Go Valley sets, and I will see y'all on the next video.
Things that I have craved, these are what I could have achieved. There's one more